From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Studio One. I'm Ann Hook, along with Avery Hagasag. Today on the show, a mother will do anything to ensure the safety of her child. Next, we will hear a mother's efforts to safeguard families of autistic children.
Also, the requirements for flying some planes have gotten more rigorous. We'll tell you how that might change the future pool of pilots. But first, a North Carolina church bus crashed into an SUV Wednesday. The crash happened in eastern Tennessee at about 2 p.m. The eastbound bus veered into the opposite lanes after its left front tire blew. Tennessee Highway Patrol says the bus clipped the SUV before slamming into a tractor trailer. The semi burst into flames.
In my 17 years, probably the most serious incident that I've ever been a part of. You know, this is involving 3 vehicles, and the dynamics are great.
The accident killed 8 people and injured 14 more. 4 were airlifted to area hospitals and 8 were transported by ambulance. Most of the people on the bus were 55 or older. Slower drive-through rates are taking out the fast of fast food. A 15-year performance study conducted by QSR magazine says McDonald's posted its slowest time ever. It went 9 seconds beyond the average 189.5 seconds for the typical drive-through customer. For the $299 billion fast food industry, drive-through operations are big business. They comprise 60 to 70% of several chain sales. Growing complexity of food products and order accuracy are being named as culprits to why people are waiting longer for their combo order. Health insurance changes are coming soon. This month, the nation will start feeling the effects of the Affordable Care Act. President Obama's plan is meant to make health care more affordable. Starting in October, people are able to enroll in a plan they choose. Communities recognize the need for education. Forums such as this one aim to give people insight to the changes. Organizers say it's important to leave the politics out of the discussion.
It's just so important to have that unbiased information, and so that is in part why we're holding this event tonight, because it is important for people to have the information so they can make the best decisions for themselves and their family.
The open enrollment period runs until March 31st, 2014. There are also many national websites and phone hotlines people can use to find out more facts about the changes. You can go to the government website named healthcare.gov.
The phrase too much information is used frequently, but what is too much information? Data mining is when companies collect information about users' habits and preferences. That can include spending habits, education level, favorite products, and much more. Most of this information is privately gathered. A company called Axiom is the only company to be transparent about this process. Their website will allow users to see what data companies monitor and gather. Axiom plans to add more features later.
New laws have increased the amount of experience required to fly. Some say these new FAA requirements may force some regional airlines to park their planes. All pilots are trusted to reach their destinations.
All right, that's all good. Everything checks out.
The FAA has increased requirements for some pilots to fly.
In the past, all they needed was a commercial pilot certificate for that position. The captain or pilot in command requires an airline transport pilot certificate.
Pilots flying for what is called a scheduled air carrier now have the added requirements of 1,500 hours of training. That includes pilots for commercial airlines.
In the past, legally, they only needed 250 hours.
As a flight instructor, it requires me now to stay as a flight instructor much longer to get those hours.
More than half of the students who are interested in professional flight are interested in flying for an airline.
Total on the airplane?
With the new FAA regulations being put into place, many students are choosing to change their career paths.
So before I wanted to go to the airlines, I thought it would really appeal to me. Now it doesn't so much.
We're just checking the linkages. I would like to become an airline pilot, maybe even going overseas where they have some lower minimums.
For some students, 1,500 hours is just too much.
Now I'm looking at some companies for sales and demo and some corporate opportunities that don't require the 1,000 hours.
James adds that U.S. airlines may have fewer pilots to crew their planes in the future because of the change. With photographer Ann Hook, this is Avery Hagasag reporting for Studio One. The University of North Dakota is the first school in the country to be allowed to certify pilots with only 1,000 hours of flight time. The FAA rules require 1,500 hours. And that's the news for now. Ann?
All right, good story, Avery.
Thanks.
All right, let's bring it now to Jonathan Netz, who's going to give us more information about some flooding that's going cross-continental.
Well, thank you, Ann and Avery. Yeah, we're taking a look at flooding in Thailand, where they've had monumental floods that they've actually not seen for the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, that over 800 people have been killed so far, and then farmland has been washing away. But back closer in the United States, Eugene, Oregon is also getting record rainfall. They got more rain on Sunday than they normally do in all of September, and Portland received 6.21 inches of rain in September. Their average is 2.14. So if we take a look and wonder why is this happening, well, here's the good question. This is a map of the forecast global airflow for the next couple of days. What we usually like to look on this map is the amount of waves. Now, air tends to flow along these lines, and anytime they take a dip or a kink, we call that a wave. So if you take a look, we see one wave over the western United States. There's another one up in Alaska, and as a matter of fact, on the other side of the map, there's one over off the coast of Quebec. And anytime we start having more than 2 or 3 waves on this particular side of the globe, our weather starts to move a lot faster. And we can actually take a look at this if we put our map in motion. This particular wave right now is centered over much of Minnesota. And as we move it through over just the next couple of days, that wave is going to gradually drift up into Quebec. And so with all of these particularly extreme and progressive weather patterns, the National Weather Service has come up with a new way to warn people even sooner.
If you have ever been in the way of severe weather, perhaps you've received a unique alert on your smartphone. Wireless Emergency Alerts, or WEAs, began in 2009. It was not until 2012 when the program was in full swing and the public began to notice. Like radio warnings, WEAs are sent out from the National Weather Service to people in the surrounding area. They use sidebands from cell phone towers to send out their message.
So any cell phone that is within the area covered by that cell tower, if that cell phone is one of the newer ones that has that capability to receive this, boom, they'll receive that, essentially a crawl on the cell phone.
The most common alerts are tornado and flood warnings. Other areas in the United States could receive blizzard or dust storm alerts on their phone. Greg says the National Weather Service could get a 160-character warning out to surrounding areas in about a minute. However, any person with a smartphone has the ability to turn these alerts off.
We recognize some people don't want to hear it and some people don't want to be disturbed, but that's our reason, is to cut in and interject and get that information out there. So we encourage people to receive the information and respond to it.
While some might feel interrupted by this warning, it's better to listen to the messenger before Mother Nature reaches you first. Kellen Peters, reporting for Studio One Weather.
Now, this system can also be used to broadcast Amber Alerts and messages from the President of the United States. However, as of yet, it has not been used for either. Now, that brings me to our weather question for the week. It is October. So what is the term for the fear of snow? Is it A, chionophobia, B, leucophobia, C, selenophobia, or D, tenetrophobia? Ann and Avery will have that answer for you up at the end of the show.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. I really hope nobody in North Dakota has that fear.
I really do too.
All right, let's bring it now to Avery Hagasog with today's sports story.
Thanks, Ann. A recent government study estimates that 80% of Americans do not get the recommended amount of exercise. Here is how some unusual terrain is getting more people on their feet.
Waiting can cause worry, stress, and tension.
3, 2, 1,
But after the countdown is over, the nerves start to calm. This race is about more than reaching the end. Obstacles throughout the course add fun and adventure.
Yeah, the mud.
The mud is hard.
The mud. I mean, sometimes you need to have some upper body strength to get over top of the walls and things like that.
Although it's a race, most participants work together as a team.
It's really just about going out and having fun and working together and having a great day.
Racing is not the only way the community is getting involved. Others help keep racers safe and make sure the event runs smoothly.
We don't get to do fun stuff like this on the base because we don't have a river and mud, so it was a good opportunity for us to help out, get dirty, and use our skills that the Air Force taught us.
Participants experience different challenges along the way, such as running over piles of tires, swimming across a river, and climbing through muddy areas.
I feel like events like this are a great way to get the community engaged, get people in the community out doing fun stuff.
I recommend it to everybody. It feels good.
Yeah, good sense of accomplishment.
Racers worked together as a team to make it to the finish line, and the community also came together to make it all possible. With photographer Alex Stadnick, I'm Katie Wilson, reporting for Studio One.
This was Grand Forks' first mud run. The race had to turn out with nearly 700 participants. Coordinators plan to hold another race again next year. And that's a sports story for now. Ann?
Hey, thanks, Avery. A community often rallies together in the wake of tragedy. Next, we will hear how a woman says a simple electronic device can help keep children in her community safe.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
North Dakota is facing challenges in healthcare delivery. The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is building a place to help meet the state's healthcare needs. In addition to a new structure, we're also building interaction between healthcare professionals while building a workforce through expanding class sizes. We're inspiring our youth to engage in healthcare careers and exploring ways to reduce disease. It starts here and ends here, building a better future for North Dakota.
At the University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, classes have real-life application. Mentors guide students. Our work improves quality of life by answering tough questions with creativity and innovation. The University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, training tomorrow's engineering and geology experts today.
The University of North Dakota College of Business and Public Administration, connecting vision to innovation.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
Location systems are used to track down missing people. Project Lifesaver is a GPS tracking system that helps safeguard children with autism. A mother of a child with autism, Alicia Coleman, is organizing to put these systems into place after tragedy struck her community. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Alicia.
Thanks for having me.
Well, to start off, what is Project Lifesaver?
It's a system that was developed by law enforcement officials to help keep track of people with cognitive disorders, including autism, Down syndrome, and also people with Alzheimer's.
So how does this device work?
The person with the disability would wear a tracking device, which we brought with us, and they, and basically if they step outside of a certain perimeter that's been set up by a caregiver, or if they get too far away from a receiver, it'll automatically set off an alert so that they can be tracked down.
Well, you have all this information, but what really propelled you to really want to use this tracking device?
Well, on August 3rd of this year, my 5-year-old son went missing. Despite the fact that we have alarms on every door and deadbolts on every door, he saw a small window of opportunity and he took it, and was found about an hour later near the river by the golf course in East Grand Forks. And it was the most terrifying thing that I've ever gone through. So a few days afterwards, when businesses opened back up, I started calling around to try and get support, and 4 days later was when Anthony Kuznia went missing. And at that point in time, I decided that it was time to push until it happened.
Explain to me really, after finding your son, but then knowing 4 days later this was happening to somebody else's child, what was going through your mind?
I heard about it on the radio. I was coming home from the grocery store, and when I heard, I went home and told my husband, I said, I have to go out and help look. I have to go and help find him. And because I knew how scared I was when my boy went missing. And, just getting out there to try and help, was what I could do at the time. And when we found out that he had passed away, this is what I can do to help now.
How did this event really propel the police to get involved in this tragedy?
Well, I had contacted the chief of police in East Grand Forks after my son went missing, and right after Anthony went missing is when he got back in contact with me, and he was all for it. Let's do it, and he wrote up a grant proposal, and at the same time I started fundraising so that either way, whether the grant was approved or not, we would get the system in place. So now that the grant's been approved, we're just waiting on them to come out and do the installation to get it started.
Well, your story and your organization is really inspiring. What really made you want to foster hope out of tragedy?
Well, I just think that it's such a simple fix. In the grand scheme of things, $4,000 is a drop in the bucket for the police to get that up and running. And with the Be a Lifesaver project that I'm running and the money that we're raising from that, I want the families that need the bracelets to be able to get them without having to be concerned about the cost, because it is such an easy fix.
Well, just to lead into that question, we have the GPS technology right here on the table. How much does this cost? Is it for families very affordable?
This particular one is only $100, and it can function as a standalone system, or it can work with the Project Lifesaver equipment at the police department. So when the equipment gets installed at East Grand Forks, the bracelet will work with their system. And for people who live outside of the coverage area for the system, it can work as a standalone system. So if you live in a small town that doesn't have Project Lifesaver in place, it can work on its own as well. So
what are these two pieces? That's the watch, and is that the locator? Or?
Right, this is the receiver, and the way it works as a standalone device, this wouldn't really come into play with the Project Lifesaver equipment at the police department, but when it's working as a standalone system, if you can do two things. You can set up a perimeter. You go online to the website and you draw a perimeter around your home or the child's school or wherever you're going to be, and if they go outside of that perimeter, it automatically sets off an alarm, both on the receiver and it'll text message you on your cell phone. The other way that this works for if you're on the go, if you are going to the mall and you don't want to have to go and set a perimeter for every building you're going to visit, you can set a proximity alarm. So my son's very young, so it's set to 25 yards right now. If he, with the watch on, gets more than 25 yards away from the receiver, it'll automatically set off the alarm and start tracking.
One last question for you. How does really being the head of this organization and really taking it head on as the leader, how has this impacted you?
It's busy. It's very it's very busy, and but I just think it's something that absolutely has to be done, and it's one of those times where you can't wait around for somebody else to do it, and you just pick it up and run with it. So.
Well, your story is very inspirational. I really do wish you all the luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
Coming up, few things smell better than a meal that's waiting for you when you get home. we'll take you to a fitness center that promotes healthy eating from a slow simmering pot.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
Some consider graduation the end of the college experience. For others, it's just the beginning.
And the university provided an environment where I could grow.
In many years after I graduated, I'm still receiving dividends from my experience as a student at UND.
The University of North Dakota Alumni Association is committed to growing the university by growing the alumni family.
At the University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, classes have real-life application. Mentors guide students. Our work improves quality of life by answering tough questions with creativity and innovation. The University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines, training tomorrow's engineering and geology experts today.
Studio One is a television show produced by students at the University of North Dakota.
You can be a part of the graphics team, the marketing team, news team, programming team, production team.
Training never ends.
You get to produce guests, you get to do the reporting side of it.
It's really worth the experience. You will not regret it.
If you would like to attend a live show, go to our website at studio1.und.edu.
The term runner-runner comes from the card game Texas Hold'em. It is used when a player gets two useful cards right away. In the new film Runner-Runner, a Princeton grad student confronts a gambling tycoon who he believes swindled him. Richie, played by Justin Timberlake, has used gambling as a way to pay for college. He was cheated out of all of his tuition money on an online gambling site. He tries to get his money back from the site's owner, Ivan Block, played by Ben Affleck. The two meet up in Costa Rica. Block is impressed with Richie and takes him under his wing. He leads Richie into a world full of wealth, but he soon learns that Block is one of the FBI's most wanted criminals.
I describe Richie as a guy in the wrong world trying to do everything the right way. The deeper you get into the story, the darker and darker it gets.
Runner-Runner was filmed along the coast in Puerto Rico. One of the production crew's biggest challenges was creating a realistic hybrid of rags to riches. The film will be in theaters on October 4th with an R rating. Rising to the top sometimes results in a swift plummet to the bottom. A University of Washington study shows people often feel a sense of gratification after cheating. Psychologists suggest it is because incentives to succeed are higher now before than ever. However, the thrill may be short-lived. Most people have regret in the future. We wanted your thoughts on how it feels to be a cheater.
I didn't think about it, but the teacher's classroom was right behind me, so the teacher came out of the classroom, saw what I was doing, and asked me, and that was the only time I ever tried because I felt so bad.
We would pretend that they were actually the actual tests, that we have all the answers down, and then just flip through them like we were taking the test and had the answers right there. That's why everyone had like a 98%. It was easy.
On a test, and it made me feel kind of
mad at myself.
One time I cheated on my homework and I got an A+. It made me feel really down about myself and sad.
I cheated in dodgeball, and at first it made me feel kind of clever, but then later on I felt kind of bad and stupid.
When I was a kid, I used to cheat in sports, but then I realized it wasn't as fun as playing it fair.
I think everybody cheats on their taxes, but nobody wants to admit it.
A comment from our Facebook page from Idaho. Matt says, the only time I remember cheating was on homework in elementary, and there was almost no rush except maybe when getting the answer, but instant remorse after. Amanda from Sioux Falls, South Dakota says, I requested study hall as a senior, but knew I wouldn't have enough credits. Later, the principal told me, I know what you got away with. I felt rewarded for being such a good student in the past.
Many universities provide students with fitness centers. We found one class at a college wellness center that was more interested in eating than elliptical machines.
While most everyone in this building is breaking a sweat, people in this class are turning up the heat on their crock pots. This class is part of a series offered at the University of North Dakota's Wellness Center. Our goal is to improve nutrition knowledge amongst students and participants, and that's a huge thing for me being a dietetics major. Most everyone has heard of the Freshman 15. That's the idea that most new college students gain weight in the first months of life away from mom's cooking.
Because we try to think of like really cool, unique things that are cheap and fast and healthy for college students to make. I'm on Pinterest a lot, so I get a lot of recipes from there.
The instruction team holds regular meetings to brainstorm ideas for new classes. Crock-pot cooking was established in hopes of providing students with the opportunity to make meals that fit their lifestyle. Crock-pots are not just for elderly people. They're actually really great for students because they're super convenient and it doesn't take a lot of advanced cooking skills. You can set your crock-pot, go to class, come back, and have your food ready. Reagan and Katie emphasize the importance of what you put into your body. Specifically in this class, what you put in your crock. With photographer Katie Wilson, this is Joy Jacobson reporting for Studio One.
Students in the crock-pot class left with a meal for 4. Other classes in the series include healthy desserts, fit-friendly snacks, and super smoothies.
All right, thanks, Avery. Let's bring it back now to Jonathan in studio, who's going to give us a final look at today's weather. Jonathan?
Well, thanks, Ann and Avery. We're going to be seeing a bit of a pattern change over the next week as it's going to be cooler in much of the Midwest, but warmer up in the East Coast and in California. And it's going to be wet all the way from Minnesota down to Missouri and the East Coast, and dry in the West Coast. If we go to our weather question for the week, what is the term for the fear of snow? Is it A, B, C, or D? And it is chionophobia. And as we take a look, at least the term for rain is ombraphobia. That's a little different.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. And that's our show for today. As always, you can follow us